Hi again, everyone. This is Mike coming to you from the shed once again, shedding some light, hopefully, on some things. Today is a quick story about perspective, and well, it's never a quick story when it comes from me. My family would laugh if I ever said quick story. Anyway, um, yesterday, we're taking a walk, my wife, myself, and my son, and we go around this park and we run into a hot dog vendor. And the guy, I said, "How's it going?" He goes, "Good, good. Yeah, I'm sold out 3 times today. I'm closing up." I said, "Oh, that's awesome." Really optimistic, upbeat guy. you know, just really positive energy and all this sort of stuff. And and we had been talking just about, my son's worried about job stuff um, and money talk, all that stuff, all the basic worries everyone goes through, I suppose. So we stopped and talked to this gentleman, and he was very, you know, just engaging. Um, and he proceeded to tell us his life story, which is usually my job. But what a story. And, here we were walking around the park, kind of, groaning and bitching and moaning about some stuff. And we find out just by saying hello, which goes back to, I think, one of my earlier videos, that he lost both his son and daughter to criminal acts, 2 separate occasions. And the son was a real, back in high school, he was a football star, won 3 state championships while he was in his high school. Um, he hated bullies, and he was a big guy, so he would always defend, those um, of his classmates and younger folks from bullies. And one night, apparently, he was out in the city around here, and someone put a gun to his friend's face, and he grabbed the gun and got it wrestled away, and someone shot him in the back of the head. So, you know, he was only 27. And then the guy's daughter, well, that's another story, but she was at a party and she passed out apparently, and someone injected her with heroin, and tragic ending. Anyway, the point to all of this, and I guess I'm beginning to sound a little more morose, but there's always a bright side to this stuff. Honestly, I promise you. The point to all of this stuff is perspective. We're out moaning about just some, stuff everyone's dealing with. It's always, if it's not money or it's whatever, it's something. And turn that light on. It's not working. And you meet someone like that, and you think, wow, my problems pale in comparison. I can't imagine not having my son or daughter, and I can't imagine losing them that way. Um, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're having a bad day, if you're having a rough time, if you're thinking that, oh, I'm not going to get that job, or that girl doesn't like me, or that person doesn't like me, or whatever, if things aren't going your way, as long as it's not life and death, you got it pretty good. We all do. We've got nothing to worry about. I have another story, actually. I remember I was a bunch of years out of college, and both my parents had been teachers, and I have a sister who was having some difficulty in life at the time, and she was going on a pity party, which we all celebrate once in a while. Forgive me for yawning. We all have them, right? And my dad, had heard a bunch of these calls for a while, and he just was, at pretty much he was a pretty patient, tolerant guy, but he got to the point where it was getting a little absurd for him. Her problems weren't life and death. They weren't anything to do with anything that couldn't be, you know, solved with a little perseverance and you know. And so I always remember he was a World War II vet. And I said in my other video, he was in the Philippines. He saw a lot of awful stuff, I know. But he never spoke about it. And most of those folks from that generation didn't. They weren't looking for attention. They weren't looking for slaps on the back or anything like that. They just came home. Well, anyway, he never talked about World War II and his time in World War II. But she pushed him with her tirades about why her life wasn't going well. And he said, really, really just snapped really quick. And he said, you don't know what trouble is until you've seen your best friend split in two. And he never expanded on it. I remember him walking away from the phone. My mom picked up from there. And that was that. And I always remember that because, I'll tell my kids, quote, kids, that story when they're having a rough time with anything in life, and remind them that, my dad and a lot of other 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, real kids, went overseas to repel some true evil in the world. And a lot of them didn't come back. So anyway, on the bright side of things work out, put it into perspective. If you're going through stuff, keep it in perspective. Think of that person who's lost someone in their family or is going through some really, life or death stuff. If it isn't life or death, then, you're going to get, you'll have an option. You have a real true ability to get out of it, believe it or not. Even with, there's all, I don't know, where the old phrase that where there's a will, there's a way is true. This is just from an old guy, sitting in a shed on a rainy day. It's funny, sometimes I think the neighbors see me walking in the shed and I don't come out for a while. They're wondering, what's this guy doing in there? I'm sitting on my mower. If this phone weren't here, then I'd truly be crazy sitting on the mower talking to myself. Although it isn't a bad place to meditate, really. It's kind of a nice dry environment. Anyway, I don't want everyone to think that I'm just all about, sadness about things, but it is, today's topic, like I said, it was perspective, and we lose it pretty quick when we're all into our own, poor me selves. It's easy to get lost in it. So, and it's also easy for me to say to get over it. I know life isn't easy, but give yourself a little grace and take some time, reflect, figure out options, talk to people. That's a big deal. Make sure you're talking to somebody, but keep it in perspective, right? If it's not life or death, you'll get through it. Trust me. All right. So anyway, that's my word from the shed today, shedding light on just my own stuff, things that go through my head, and I hope maybe might help someone out there. If you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to write them in the comments below. If you like this and you want to hear more of me talking about life stuff or advice, stories, I'm no I'm no sage, believe me. But we can all relate, I think. Everyone's got a story to tell. And these are just some of mine. So if you're interested, come on back. I'll try to have something more interesting and a little less morose or sad. Like I say, a lot of the things that are in life, we have going on in life, can really bring us down. So, we got to lift each other up. All right. So take care of yourselves. I'll see you on the next one. And this is Mike, shedding light from the shed.